So how much does it really cost to train some of these large language models, and how much are these companies willing to invest in creating general intelligence? Now, the topic of today's videos comes to you from Zuck, from IG. So let's hear what he has to say.
We're building an absolutely massive amount of infrastructure to support this. By the end of this year, we're going to have around 350,000 NVIDIA H100s, or around 600,000 H100 equivalents of compute if you include other GPUs. We're currently training Llama 3, and we've got...
All right, so that's just a very small snippet of what he had to say. So let's talk about this. All right, so we heard him say that he's going to be having about 350,000 NVIDIA H100 GPUs, or about 600,000 equivalent H1 GPUs being used in order to train and to gear up for the next iteration of Llama 3 and for their services when it comes to AI development and general intelligence. He phrased it interestingly. He said general intelligence. He didn't say artificial general intelligence. So, he's working on words there. But how much does that really cost? And the reason why I ask this is because, as someone who's interested in this technology of AI and artificial intelligence, and someone who plays around with it a lot, you start wondering, can you train some of these models in your home environment? Well, if we think about it, NVIDIA, in terms of the consumer market, something that you and I can realistically get our hands on in terms of GPUs, some of the more recent GPUs coming out of NVIDIA for consumers, let's say the super versions of the 4000 series, that can cost about $1,000 or maybe even upwards of $2,500 for one GPU. And that sounds like a lot of money, right? I mean, thinking about it, that's a good amount of money that, one GPU costs what a typical laptop costs. And he mentioned that they're going to have 350,000 H100 GPUs or 600,000 equivalent GPUs used in order to roll out their general intelligence program. So let's see that math. Hey Siri, how much is 350,000 times 40,000?
The answer is 14 billion.
$14 billion. That's how much it costs on the low end. And the reason why I say the low end is because he said upwards of 600,000 GPUs will be used. So now let's see that math. Hey Siri, how much is 600,000 times 40,000?
600,000 times 40,000 is 24 billion.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so now think about that for a minute. The reason why I put the $40,000 price tag is because generally, more or less, that's how much one of the NVIDIA GPUs for the H100 series costs. And they're gearing up and getting ready to ship the B100 series, I believe, in 2024. And in 2025, they're going to have the X100 series. And those are going to be even more powerful than what they currently have, as technology normally advances, right? It doesn't really digress or de-evolve. So we're talking about Meta is going to be spending anywhere from $14 to $24 billion in AI development. That's a lot of money. So can we train some of these models on our computers at home? We could. It'll take a lot longer. We could definitely use some of the models. You could download some of these open source models and run them on your local installation. But training some of these models, even if you have, a good amount of GPUs in terms of the 4000 series, yeah, it's going to take a little bit longer. Now, the reality is, obviously for training purposes, they don't need as many, but they're going to be doing a lot of distributed work as well. So they're going to have teams working on it. They're going to be offering some of these AI solutions to their enterprise customers and utilizing it inside of their research and development laboratories. So yeah, so they're spending a lot of money. But that tells you how important general intelligence is, or artificial general intelligence. And you hear about this coming up almost every single day in terms of Sam Altman making an announcement at Davos, or Meta investing so much money in terms of launching their AI solutions and their options and their custom GPTs that are tailored around celebrities and stuff. And in that conversation on IG that he announced this, he also mentioned the fact that this is going to be an ongoing effort in terms of their augmented reality. Their whole entire deep dive into the metaverse and trying to really take over the whole entire idea or concept of the metaverse itself. So much so that they renamed the company from Facebook to Meta. And we know that it hasn't really gone as far as he wanted it to go, but we see that he's dedicating the GPUs that he acquired previously and the new GPUs he's going to get to making sure that they can be a dominant force within AI. So these companies are going all in. I mean, that shows you, one, how viable their technology is. And two, it's a race to be the first to really crack the code when it comes to AGI, or general intelligence. He phrases it like full general intelligence instead of artificial general intelligence. And that's an interesting way to phrase it, because, we think about intelligence itself. There is our level of intelligence, and then everything else we believe to be artificial or synthetic in terms of it's learning from us. But at a point where the intelligence itself gets to be on par with us, at some point it's no longer artificial. Now it's just real intelligence. Now it's synthetic in terms of the fact that it's not a human, but in terms of its capabilities, it's full-featured. Now it's not there yet. I think they're very close. I think a lot of these companies are closer than people think. Some people say this is not something that can be achieved within the near future. I think it's not going to be achieved in the near future for the masses, as I say in a bunch of other videos. But I do think internally, a lot of these labs, these research and development labs, they're investing so much money because they see that they're very close to I don't want to say the finish line, because it's just going to be the first iteration of AGI or GI or whatever you want to call it. But in terms of cracking the code for the first iteration of general intelligence. So yeah, it's exciting times. Got to drink some coffee because I need to, spike up and stimulate my intelligence over here. It is a beautiful, cloudy day here in New York City. I'm in the Bronx, and yeah, it's gonna snow. So yeah, so you see that they're investing so much money into this, so much of their resources in terms of the developer power that's being implemented or put into this effort, the research labs that are going all in on this. It's a competition between Google, Microsoft, OpenAI, Meta, and a bunch of other, labs all across the world. You have Tesla with their Tesla supercomputer, and you have other platforms that are really trying to crack this code. And you hear a lot of the conversation in terms of what it's going to take. A lot of it is the computational power, it's the chipsets that's needed, it's the energy that's needed. I sound like a broken record because in every video I mention this, because I just want to remind people that this is not an easy thing. Even if they get in a laboratory environment, AGI, to scale it up to the masses in terms of the availability to the public of having this general intelligence available to all of us, that's going to take time, because that takes a crazy amount of resources. And to scale it, we're not there yet. But internally they are. They're almost there. Maybe they are there. Maybe they just don't want to mention it. Who knows what DARPA has, right? Because DARPA tends to, be ahead of the curve with some of the technology, and they tend to release some of their technology to some of the corporate, entities that exist, right? But I just thought that was interesting. He mentioned, based on the types of interfaces, the types of devices that's going to be needed, with working with AI. Obviously, he's pushing his Ray-Ban glasses that he has released, and it was demonstrated in Davos in a conversation with Sam Altman. And, Sam Altman himself wasn't really impressed with it, but that could obviously be because he's developing something, a secret AI product, hardware product that, he's teaming up with Jony Ive and some former Apple designers and developers to create a next generation secret AI type of device. I spoke about that in the previous video as well. But we see that so much is taking place. It's very fast paced. A lot of people are trying to be the first out the gate, and they're willing to bet the house on this. So that tells you something. That tells you that we are in for some exciting times. And it started to snow a little bit of flurries over here. Maybe with AI, we can get some better weather models, because it was supposed to be snowing as of last night, but that didn't happen, at least in my area. And as a parent, I like to make sure that I'm aware of what the weather patterns are, because obviously, Got to see if there's school in the day. We haven't had any snow days. So yeah, we need AI. In that announcement, he also talked about the fact that they're going to be releasing Llama 3. And that's the next generation of their open source large language model that you can download and run on your own system. They have a couple of different versions of it, kind of like what Gemini with Google has in terms of their Nano and their Pro and their Ultra versions. But Llama has a couple of architectures they're working with as well in terms of the sizes, because not every system is able to, manage these large language models in terms of their larger versions of them. So they have smaller versions that are a little bit easier to run on the platforms that maybe typical consumers have within their house. And I think it's great to, work with some of these different LLMs locally, because let's say you don't have power in your house for whatever reason. Let's say the power goes out and you still want to be able to run some of these LLMs. If you have to query something, obviously you have to have a power source. But if you have a laptop, then that's definitely something that's doable. But if you don't have an internet connection, then you have to run it locally. So downloading some of these LLMs is a pretty good idea. And sometimes you just want to have it locally because you don't want it to be trained, or your queries or your prompts to be trained and out there for the public. You want to have something local, something more private, something secure, and something that you can control. Now, the thing is with security, there's been a recent development in terms of what Anthropic put out there. They put out a paper, and I'm going to talk about it in another video, about the concept of sleeper agents and how some of these AI models, they can pretend to not know something or not be able to do something. And then later on, it could be found they can do it. Or they can go rogue. They could be safe, completely safe in their initial usage, in the training process, in the testing process. But then all of a sudden, maybe some type of prompt triggers them, or a time or a date triggers them. And all of a sudden, they go rogue, or they run code, or run programs, or run operations that you didn't realize they would run based on your test. So yeah, so there's a security issue that people have to be aware of, even when downloading some of these LLMs locally on their computers. Again, these are fun times. These are exciting times. And, it's very interesting. And I think that we all have to try to figure out which models we're going to be using on a consistent basis. I think we're going to have fun with some of these models, and we're going to experiment with them. But at the same time, there's going to be some of these models that we use for fun purposes, development purposes, practicing, getting to know how they operate. And then there's going to be the ones we use for production ready, in terms of, production ready code. And like I mentioned in another video, in a previous video, there's going to be the opportunity to see what's the difference between the output from the same prompt into different models. And that's how you can get a sense of what the accurate or what the best answer is in terms of testing the different responses. So yeah, $14 to $24 billion. That is a lot of money. That's a lot of hardware. There's a lot of infrastructure. But I don't actually think that's the most. I think that other companies have probably spent more in terms of their AI development and their research and their application of this technology. Let me know what you think about this. Do you think that this is money well spent? Do you think it's a mistake by Meta to invest so much money into AI? I think the majority of people will say it's not a mistake. They probably will say that the metaverse was a little bit too early, but with artificial intelligence, now's the time. All right, so sound off down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you enjoyed the video, you know what you gotta do. If you didn't, then let me know why. Comment down below. This is a new format for me. I enjoy doing it because I like optimizing my time, in terms of, how am I able to best utilize my time throughout the day. We talk about optimizing code, optimizing programs, optimizing our applications, our software, and our workflows. There's a lot of time that we have throughout our day that we don't maximize. So a lot of the times when I'm in the car, I'll listen to an audiobook or I'll listen to a podcast. But I figured, hey, why not? Let me just hook up a camera, hook up my microphone, and see if I can just share my thoughts. Because what's the difference between a talking head video in the house and a talking head video in the car. If I'm just sharing my thoughts, I'm not really teaching, in terms of code. I'm just sharing my thoughts. Same difference, right? All right, so sound off down below. Let me know what you think. I'll catch you guys in the next one. Take care.